Real quick before we get started, I would like to get to 40k subscribers by the end of the year, so help me out. Go ahead and subscribe if you're not already. Enjoy the video. I think it's only appropriate that I now cover the Soviet counterpart to the F-15A. At 13.0 battle rating, you have the Su-27. This is the Su-27S. It does not have access to Fox 3s. But on the flip side, you get one of the greatest kits available at 13.0 battle rating, only topped by something like the F-4F Ice or the Harriers. You know, one of those planes that have terrible flight performance, but they have MRAMs and 9Ms, so that kind of carries them. The Su-27, well, the flight performance is not great by any means, any stretch of the imagination. We will touch on that later. The kit, while not having active radar homing missiles, you get a ton of missiles that are still extremely good. In fact, probably best in class, if not close to best in class. You have the R-27ER, which is hands down the greatest SAR missile in the game, and it's not even close. You have the R-27ET, which is the greatest long-range missile, long-range IR missile in the game, with its only competition being like the R-27T, which is also Russian, so not much competition there, not too difficult to be best in class. But then you have the R-73 as well, which as far as close range IR missiles go, there's not too many better options. You could, of course, make the argument that you prefer AIM-9Ms, and that'd be completely understandable, but that's not to say there's anything wrong with the R-73, because there definitely is not. The R-73s are awesome, and as I said, as far as close-range missile performance goes, there is nothing better in the game that you could have. Let's combine all of this with the fact that unlike the F-15A, you actually get HMD, both for your IR missiles and your radar, which is absolutely massive, and when it comes to slinging off R-27ERs, it's pretty important. It's not necessarily the end of the world at this battle rating if you're lacking HMD, but you do have a very clear-cut advantage if your plane is equipped with HMD when it comes to the speed at which you can get your semi-active radar homing missile off the rail and on target. Of course, when you both have to continue locking each other throughout the entire duration of the missile's flight, whoever gets that lock and that shoot first is very often going to be the winner, plus or minus a few seconds depending on the missile's speed, but you get the point. And so all in all, combined with the HMD and the missile kit of this plane, and of course the sheer quantity of missiles, 10 missiles at 13.0 battle rating is absolutely ludicrous, and it of course is the second most in the game, only being topped by its older brother, the Su-27SM, at 13.7, carrying 12 missiles. Your killing power in this plane is great for its own battle rating, and that's the exact problem that the F-15A ran into in the last video. The plane is great at 13.0 battle rating, the Su-27's missile kit is great at 13.0 battle rating. Unfortunately, this battle rating for whatever reason is very often up-tiered into 13.7. We're going to be fighting against Fox 3 missiles all of the time, nearly all of the time I should say, and it doesn't matter how good the R-27ER is. Ever since the multipath changed, or you can't just reliably fly low to the ground anymore to avoid radar missiles, you are pretty much going to be outgunned by every Fox 3 missile in the game, simply due to the fact that they can fire and then defend against you. And if you want to get any kills with your R-27ER, you have no choice but to stick that head on and try to outmaneuver the Fox 3. Of course, you're probably just going to end up dying, and in actuality, you're just going to give up on your R-27ER, you're going to not get the kill, and you have to defend against that Fox 3 missile. And so what you end up with is a plane that is very good at attacking, at least in its own battle rating. Its kill power is tremendous, but then when it's up tiered, that kill power very largely gets whittled down to almost, I don't want to say useless, but anytime you're taking SAR missiles up against Fox 3s, you're going to have a really rough time. And so that's kind of the interesting comparison that I want to make in this video. You have the Su-27 with very, very good killing power for 13.0, and then you have on the flip side the F-15A and the US tech tree that has extremely good defensive capabilities at 13.0. Your flight model is extremely powerful. Not really anything else at your BR that's going to be holding a candle to you, certainly not an Su-27, and your kill power is just kind of mediocre. It's not the greatest, it's not the worst, but between that flight model and between your infinite countermeasure count, it's very easy to defend yourself as an F-15A. Not so much with the Su-27SM. You have very limited countermeasures, you have terrible flight performance. The Su-27 is one of the worst dogfighters at top tier, and again, it's not even close. The way the instructor is modeled on the Su-27 for mouse and keyboard controls really guts this plane's flight performance, and there's almost nothing that you're really going to be beating in a dogfight aside for like a tornado maybe. There seems to be a misconception that the F-15C and E models will lose to the Su-27s in dogfight, and this just isn't true. Of course, you've probably beaten them before. You've probably beaten your friend as he plays the F-15. You've beaten a random player in air realistic battles playing in the F-15 while you're flying out your Su-27. I don't doubt it. This kind of thing happens all of the time. But when you actually put these vehicles to the test, you run the numbers. You have two very talented people behind the stick of each plane. Every F-15 in the game is going to beat the lightest Su-27 in the game. That's just the nature of the beast. I wish this plane was a little bit better when it comes to flight performance. I wish GAIJIN would tweak the instructor to make it a little bit more usable. And no glaze intended whatsoever, but unfortunately I just kind of have to because I'm tired of reading the same comments all the time. If you're not going to take it from me as far as how good the plane is in 1 versus 1s, take it from this guy on screen here. Check out his channel. He is one of the greatest top tier duelists in the game. He tests these planes out with his friends that are also amongst the greatest top tier duelists in the game. They could probably beat both me and you in a dogfight with their monitor turned off, so pretty much I trust whatever they're going to say. So check out these videos on screen for matchups. The Su-27, not a good dogfighter. And I guess the point I'm trying to make while taking the scenic route to do so is that it's kind of a shame what the matchmaker has led these 13.0s into, because honestly I would say that the F-15A is a little bit more up tier proof than the Su-27 just because it's a lot easier to defend yourself and stay alive. And of course you can still always rely on AIM-9Ms. You should be able to get within range as long as you know how to notch and chaff and that kind of thing. Your flight performance is fantastic as an F-15A. The Su-27 on the other hand, when you get an up tier with this thing, which is very frequent, your hands are a little bit tied. You're not very good at defending yourself due to your low countermeasures. You can't go up to altitude to take advantage of your R-27ER's long range because you're going to eat a Fox 3 missile, and you don't have enough chaff to really notch and chaff all of those Fox 3 missiles that will be fired at you if you go to altitude, and the flight performance in general is just not that great. For air realistic battles, the flight performance is generally fine, but when it comes to defensive flying and when it comes to dogfighting people, you're really lacking. Sure, you can hold supersonic pretty easily as long as you actually have speed through turns and change in directions and crank and stuff like that. The flight model for the average realistic battle situation is perfectly fine. I have no problems with it. But when it comes to defensive flying, or if you have to actually dogfight somebody, it's going to be lacking. You're going to lose speed very rapidly as you pull to those multiple notches in a row to try to survive, and you'll slow down pretty quickly. All the while not very easily getting yourself any kills because, as we said earlier in the video, you'll probably end up at the very least trading, if not just outright dying if you try to do so. So, in summary, for 13.0 battle rating, the plane is absolutely fine. It's extremely powerful at 13.0. You have a lot of killing potential, and the only Fox 3s you typically have to worry about is something like the F-14s with Fakor 90s or AIM 54s, but that's quite a miserable spam, I will admit. I wish GAIJIN would do something about that, but it's still manageable, unlike a full up tier where you've just got AMRAAMs everywhere. Other than that, the F4F Ice, not very common. 13.3 games with the Tornado, also not very common, so you really don't have to worry about them too much. And then from there, you've pretty much just got yourself some SAR-slaining old school style War Thunder, in which the Su-27 lends itself very well in. Unfortunately, not a very common matchmaker, and ultimately the main drawback of this plane, just like the F-15A. Let me know what you guys think about the Su-27 in the comments down below, and I will see you later.